The stench rising from the overflowing industrial dumpster was overpowering, a rancid blend of rotting refuse, chemical waste, and urban decay baking under the relentless summer sun. It was a smell that made most people hurry past, holding their breath, averting their eyes. But sanitation worker Mike Johnson, on his usual pre-dawn route, had a job to do. As the mechanical arm of his truck lifted the heavy bin, preparing to empty its foul contents, something shifted inside, something that wasn't supposed to be there. A tied-up black garbage bag, heavier than it should be, tore slightly as it tumbled against the dumpster's metal side. And from the tier, Mike caught a glimpse of something horrifyingly out of place, a patch of dirty, matted fur, and then, unbelievably, the weak, desperate movement of a leg. His heart leaped into his throat. Bile rose in his esophagus. He immediately stopped the truck's mechanism, shouting frantically into his radio for his partner, Jamal, who was working the other side of the street. "Jamal, get over here, now, I think there's a dog in this dumpster, in a bag." Jamal ran over, his face etched with disbelief that quickly turned to horror as Mike pointed towards the torn bag amidst the filth. Carefully wearing thick protective gloves, they reached into the reeking abyss. The bag was indeed heavy, and sickeningly they could feel the faint warmth and shallow breathing of a living creature inside. They gently, painstakingly lifted the sealed bag out, placing it on the relatively cleaner pavement nearby. The smell emanating from the bag itself was uniquely foul, a mix of infection, urine, feces, and the metallic temps of blood, overlaid on the general stench of garbage. With trembling hands, Mike used his utility knife to carefully slit the top of the thick plastic bag open further. What lay inside defied comprehension. A scene of such callous cruelty, it stole their breath. Curled tightly within the suffocating plastic, surrounded by its own waste, was a medium-sized dog, barely conscious. It had literally been thrown away like trash, sealed in a bag, and dumped amidst rotting garbage, left to suffocate or be crushed in the back of their truck. The act was so dehumanizing, so utterly devoid of empathy, it felt like a physical blow. This wasn't just abandonment. This was a deliberate, cruel attempt to dispose of a life as if it were nothing more than refuse. The dog, a young adult male shepherd mix perhaps, was in appalling condition. He was skeletal, beneath a coat matted with filth, feces, and dried blood. Open wounds, some fresh and bleeding, others old and festering, were visible on his head and body, suggesting severe abuse prior to being discarded. He lay unnervingly still, his breathing shallow and erratic. His eyes were half closed, clouded with pain and shock, seemingly unaware of his rescuers. He was covered in flies, and maggots had already begun to gather near his wounds and waste-matted fur, indicating he might have been in the dumpster for some time, perhaps overnight or longer. It was a miracle he was still alive, a testament to some deep, primal will to survive even in the face of unimaginable horror. Mike immediately called 911, requesting both police assistance and immediate contact with animal emergency services. Jamal used water from their truck's cooler to gently try and clean some of the filth away from the dog's face, speaking softly, "Hang on, buddy, hang on, we got you. You're out of the garbage now." The dog didn't respond, remaining limp and terrifyingly still, save for the shallow breaths. They covered him loosely with a clean tarp from their truck, trying to shield him slightly from the harsh morning light, their minds reeling from the depravity they had just witnessed. How could anyone do this? Treat a living being like trash? Paramedics and police arrived quickly, followed shortly by an emergency response team from Guardian Angel Rescue, alerted by the police dispatch. The rescue team, led by experienced handler Ben, took over the dog's immediate care. They carefully assessed his critical condition, noting the severe dehydration, emaciation, infected wounds, probable head trauma, and profound shock. They administered emergency first aid, stabilizing his neck cautiously, providing oxygen, and attempting to get intravenous access for fluids, a difficult task given his condition. They documented the scene, the bag, the contents, all crucial evidence for the cruelty investigation police had initiated. Transporting him to the nearest veterinary emergency hospital was a race against time. Ben rode in the back of the rescue van, monitoring the dog's fragile vital signs, continuing oxygen therapy, and willing him to hold on. He decided to name the dog Phoenix, a name often given to animals rescued from the brink, symbolizing rebirth from ashes, or in this case, from refuse. It felt appropriate, hopeful, almost necessary, given the circumstances. At the veterinary hospital, Dr. Anya Sharma, the same vet who treated the mange puppy, Hope, indicating the clinic's specialization in critical cases, met the team. The initial examination confirmed the devastating extent of Phoenix's condition. He was severely underweight, hypothermic despite the warm morning, profoundly dehydrated, and in deep shock. His blood pressure was dangerously low. Multiple lacerations and puncture wounds covered his body, many deeply infected. Radiographs revealed several fractured ribs and confirmed suspected head trauma with possible skull fractures or intracranial bleeding, explaining his near-comatose state. Blood work showed severe anemia, infection, and critical electrolyte imbalances. He was infested with parasites, internal and external. His prognosis was dire. He suffered immense trauma, both blunt force and penetrating wounds. On top of severe neglect and starvation, Dr. Sharma explained gravely to Ben, "The head trauma is extremely concerning. He's septic. His body is shutting down. Honestly, his chances of survival are minimal. We will do everything humanly possible, but the damage might be too extensive, especially neurologically." She paused, looking at the still form on the table. "Being discarded like that, it's one of the worst cases of intentional cruelty I've encountered. His recovery, if he even survives the next 24 hours, will be nothing short of a miracle." Phoenix was admitted to the ICU, a whirlwind of medical intervention enveloping him. He was stabilized on IV fluids, broad-spectrum antibiotics, potent pain medication, anti-inflammatories to reduce potential brain swelling, and anticonvulsants as a precaution given the head trauma. His wounds were meticulously cleaned, debrided, and sutured where possible, while others were left open to drain under sterile bandages. He required warming therapies. Nutritional support was started intravenously, as he was completely unable to take anything by mouth. He remained largely unresponsive, comatose, or semi-comatose, for the first critical days. The neurological prognosis remained guarded. Even if he survived, the extent of potential permanent brain damage was unknown. The rescue team held their breath. Ben visited daily, sitting quietly by Phoenix's incubator kennel, talking softly, hoping somehow his presence could offer a thread of connection, a reason for the dog's spirit to fight back against the overwhelming odds. Mike and Jamal, the sanitation workers who found him, called the rescue daily for updates, deeply invested in the fate of the dog they pulled from the trash. The story shared carefully by the rescue to garner support for Phoenix's immense medical costs, generated outrage and an outpouring of compassion from the community. Donations flowed in, along with messages praying for a miracle. And then, against all expectations, a flicker. After nearly 4 days of unresponsiveness, Phoenix blinked his eyes open when Dr. Sharma shone a penlight during her neurological exam. It wasn't much, but it was purposeful movement. Later that day, he weakly tracked a technician's movement across his field of vision. The next day, he made a faint swallowing motion when water was gently swabbed inside his mouth. These were minuscule signs, but they indicated that perhaps the most severe neurological damage was not irreversible. Hope, fragile but persistent, began to take root. Phoenix's recovery journey was incredibly slow, fraught with challenges. He battled aspiration pneumonia from potential fluid inhalation while unconscious or during the trauma. His kidneys struggled initially due to dehydration and shock. His infected wounds required multiple procedures and prolonged antibiotic therapy. But slowly, painstakingly, day by day, he began to claw his way back. He gradually regained consciousness, transitioning from 4 nutrition to being carefully tube-fed, then eventually, after weeks, to tentatively lapping a liquid recovery diet from a bowl. He started lifting his head, looking around his kennel with dazed, confused eyes. The psychological trauma was immense. As Phoenix became more aware, his deep-seated fear became apparent. He flinched violently at sudden movements or loud noises. He was terrified of hands reaching towards him, likely associating them with the abuse that led to his wounds and fractures. He showed extreme anxiety when confined, possibly linked to the horror of being trapped in the garbage bag. Building trust required extraordinary patience from the hospital staff and Ben, who continued his daily visits. They used only positive reinforcement, allowing Phoenix to set the pace, rewarding the slightest sign of relaxation or tentative curiosity. They focused on creating positive associations. Gentle voices meant soft food, slow movements meant no threat, quiet presence meant safety. After nearly 6 weeks of intensive hospital care, Phoenix was finally stable enough, though still incredibly fragile, both physically and emotionally, to be transferred to a specialized medical foster home through Guardian Angel Rescue. His foster, Lisa, was experienced with severe trauma and medical rehabilitation cases. The transition was carefully managed, providing Phoenix with a quiet, predictable environment where his healing could continue outside the stressful hospital setting. In Lisa's care, Phoenix continued his slow transformation. He slowly gained weight, filling out his skeletal frame, though the scars from his wounds remained prominent. His fur grew back, revealing a handsome shepherd mix coat. He learned the routines of a home, the joy of soft bedding, the comfort of regular meals. Lisa worked tirelessly on his fear triggers, using desensitization and counter-conditioning techniques. She taught him basic cues, using positive methods, helping build his confidence. She introduced him very gradually and carefully to gentle touch, associating it with high-value rewards, helping him overcome his fear of hands. The miracle wasn't just his physical survival against impossible odds. It was the gradual healing of his spirit. The dog found near death, thrown away like trash, began to show signs of trust, then affection. He started greeting Lisa with tentative tail wags, nudging her hand gently for attention. He learned to play cautiously with soft toys, revealing glimpses of a personality hidden beneath layers of trauma. A gentle, sensitive, slightly goofy soul. He even learned to trust Ben, his initial rescuer, during his regular visits, leaning against him for comfort. The vacant, haunted look in his eyes was replaced by softness, intelligence, and a growing sense of security. Finding Phoenix a forever home required finding adopters who truly understood the depth of his past trauma and were committed to providing a lifetime of patience, positive reinforcement, and management of his lingering anxieties. He would likely always be wary of strangers and certain situations. The rescue searched diligently for that perfect match. They found it in Mark and Emily, a couple who had lost their previous rescue dog to old age and were specifically looking for an underdog, needing significant understanding and a quiet life. They were moved by Phoenix's story of survival and resilience. The introduction process was slow and careful, spanning several weeks. Mark and Emily demonstrated immense patience and empathy, allowing Phoenix to approach them on his terms, respecting his boundaries and reinforcing his confidence. Phoenix, sensing their kindness and calm energy, gradually began to trust them. Today, Phoenix lives a life completely unimaginable on the day he was found. He is a cherished member of Mark and Emily's family. He enjoys quiet walks in familiar parks, naps in sunbeams, gentle play sessions, and snuggling close to his humans on the sofa. He still carries the physical scars of his past, and certain noises or situations can still trigger anxiety, requiring understanding and management from his adopters. But the dog, who was literally thrown away like trash, left to die in unimaginable squalor and cruelty, unconditional love, his journey is a stark reminder of the horrific cruelty animals can face, but also a powerful testament to the incredible resilience, the dedication of the profession of the profound and the profound's profound condition can denshinten and in can reckon and cohen bun can becaparaku you could do the guy of but it can up to talk with who will go if I do it well will you with a talk with the two you if you walk to up I walk to go well what I see you go have I feel if you have the above if twicker with like I must the house I will with the youth or wife he learned to thrive, trust, and love again, embodying the hope that even from the darkest depths, a second chance at life and happiness is possible.